Hello everyone, welcome to this week's lecture video. So in this week we will discuss about chapter 7. Chapter 7 contains relational database design by ER and EER to relational mapping. So basically in this chapter you will learn how you can prepare a schema from an ER diagram or EER diagram. So basically the developer or the software engineers who implement the database, they need a schema to implement. So far you have learned how you can represent a system specification using an ER diagram or EER diagram, and now you will learn how you can convert that ER or EER diagram to a relational model, or we can say to a schema. So let us see what we will discuss in this chapter. So while converting from ER to relational mapping or ER to schema, we will follow these steps. First, we will see how you can map the regular entity in the ER diagram. Then you will discuss about mapping of weak entities, then different types of relation, for example one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. And then we will see how you can map multi-valued attribute in a schema, and at last we will see the mapping of NRE relationships in the schema. NRE means those relationships where there is more than two entities engaged or connected. And while converting the EER diagram to a schema, we will see how you can convert the different types of specialization or generalization. There are multiple ways you can convert a specialization or generalization into a schema. So we will discuss about that in this chapter. So this is an ER diagram of a company database. You have seen this ER diagram in the previous lectures. So if you convert this ER diagram into its corresponding schema, you will find this. So this is the schema of the previous ER diagram. So the schema consists of some relations. These are the relations, and these are the attributes of the relations. And then you will find some primary key, foreign key references, and we show the references using a directed line. Say for example this directed line, the MGR SSN, this is a foreign key in the department relation, and it refers to the SSN, which is the primary key of the employee relation. So the direction is from foreign key to the primary key. So in this way we represent all the references, primary key, foreign key references in the schema. So first let us see how we can map a regular entity types in a schema to a corresponding ER diagram. So for each regular entity type E in the ER diagram, so we will create a relation R that includes all the simple attribute of E. So that means, say for example there's a strong entity, this is E in the ER diagram, and it has some attributes. So for each of this type of entities in the ER diagram, we will create a corresponding relation. We are naming it as R. So each strong entity will be converted to a relation, and each of attributes of the entity will also be attribute in this relation. And choose one of the key attributes of E as the primary key for the R. Say if there are multiple unique attributes or key attributes of this entity, we will mark any one of them as primary key. For example, if this is a department entity and here it says department name, and another attribute is department number. Both department name and department number are unique attribute, but when we convert this entity into its corresponding schema, we will make any one of them as primary key, not both of them. We don't need both of them. If we use only one of them, that is enough for us to distinguish all the departments. So it says choose one of the key attributes of E as the primary key for R. R is the relation in the schema. If the chosen key of E is composite, what happens? If this value, this is a composite attribute, then what will happen? Say this is consist of these two attributes, and this is the key attribute or primary key in your relation. So what will happen? Actually, both of these will be the primary key in the relation R. So if the unique attribute is a composite attribute, when converting this entity into its corresponding relation, we will make both of these as primary key. That's the rule. So here's some example. You can create the relations employee, department and project in the relational schema, which are strong entities in the previous ER diagram. So we will see the examples later, but for now let us learn the rules. The first rule is you have to convert each strong entity into a relation, and when converting or when creating a new relation, you will make the unique attribute, one of the unique attribute of this entity as the primary key in the corresponding relation. Now let us see how you will convert the weak entities. Say W is a weak entity in the ER diagram, and it has a relationship, or this weak entity creates or forms an identifying relationship with another entity E. So W is the weak entity and E is the strong entity which creates the identifying relationship with W. So when you convert this W into a corresponding relation in the schema, say the relation name is R. So in R we will include all simple attributes of W, and we will also include the primary attribute of E. Let us see an example. Say this is a weak relationship, weak entity, and it has some attributes, and E, this is a strong entity and it creates a identifying relationship with weak entity. So when we will create a new relation, say this is the new relation R, and what will be the attributes of this R? So these attributes, these simple attributes of weak entity will come here, as well as the primary key, which is the primary key or the unique attribute of the strong entity which creates the identifying relationship, that will also come as an attribute of this relation. So this is how you create or you convert an weak entity into a corresponding relation in the schema. So in this relation, what will be the primary keys? The primary keys will be this one and also this one. Say this is the partial key of this weak entity. So this attribute and this attribute, both of them will be the primary key of this relation. So this is how you can convert an weak entity. So this is what it says. So it includes all the simple attributes from W, and it also includes as a foreign key the attributes of R. This is the foreign key in this relation or the relation R, which is the primary key of the relation that corresponds to the owner entity. So this is the owner entity of this weak entity. So it actually corresponds to the primary key of this strong entity. And the primary key is the combination of the primary keys of the owners and the partial key of the weak entities. So this is the primary key of the owner and this is the partial key of the weak entity. So both of this combination will be the primary key of this relation. So this is how you can map a weak entity in its corresponding schema. So in the previous example of ER diagram, you have seen that dependent is a weak entity and which owner entity was the employee. We will see how it has been converted in the schema diagram.